Elon was a fount of information on Friday morning, and now we know a ton more about Model 3. We have order timelines, some feature information, and oh yeah, we got to see the first release candidate in motion. Here are your Tesla tidbits for March 27th, 2017. In case you missed it, the show's first YouTube special went up on Friday night after the Model 3 tweet storm Friday morning. Felt I couldn't let it wait until today. If you've not seen it, check it out on the YouTube channel. Today's show is pretty much a more condensed version of that show. Firstly, we got to see the release candidate Model 3 in motion. Now we've got a black Model 3 on the road in addition to the silver and matte black. The car did a quick mash on the accelerator and then a hard stop in the 6-second video posted by Elon. Next up, Elon confirmed that the maximum battery in the Model 3 will be a 75 kilowatt-hour battery. Elon making me look clairvoyant here, as back in episode 198, I posited that the battery capacities available on the car would be 55 kilowatt-hour and 75 kilowatt-hour. Now the question here is if they go super streamlined and just make the 55 kilowatt-hour a software-limited version of the 75 kilowatt-hour pack. It would make a lot of sense, as I could see a lot of reason to get the product line down to two packs, the 75 kilowatt-hour and the 100 kilowatt-hour packs, after, of course, they eliminate the 90 kilowatt-hour pack. It would also fit with the mantra of making Model 3 affordable and also future-proofing those buyers that end up with buyer's remorse. But that's where all the good news ended. Folks, the HUD is all but dead. While not outright denying that there's no HUD, Elon has done everything else to deny it. Twitter user @ArcTechInc asked, quote, "So does this mean no heads-up display in Model 3? How will Tesla handle speedometer and instrument cluster information?" End quote. Elon's response and the follow-up is pretty damning. Quote, "The more autonomous a car is, the less dash info you need. How often do you look at the instrument panel when being driven in a taxi?" End quote. Fred Lambert of Electrek pressed further, saying, quote, "But you can't build a car with that mindset today, considering autonomous software release is dependent on regulatory approval." End quote. Elon responded simply by saying, quote, "It still has one display." End quote. Super disappointing, as I was hoping we'd realize the world where GPS directions were displayed like augmented reality onto the windshield for super foolproof directions to new locations. But it looks like this just isn't going to happen. Back in the video, especially being dark, a HUD would have been readily apparent on the windshield, likely visible from both the outside and from inside the car. There was none visible. Doesn't mean it still wouldn't possibly be an option. You have to imagine these release candidate cars will simply be base specs to prove viability. But at this point, this is wishful thinking at best. While the apparent lack of HUD is bad, the big disappointment, at least for me, is the announcement that all-wheel drive will be coming after rear-wheel drive. Twitter user @JimPengelly asked Elon, quote, "Will there be a dual-motor option? I put a deposit on a 3 with the hope there would be go-fast options." End quote. Elon's response was, quote, "Yes, but not until next year." End quote. Pressed again by Fred Lambert of Electrek, he said, quote, "First adopters will not have the option of all-wheel drive for the Model 3, end quote. Elon said, quote, "No, we are minimizing configuration complexity to keep the production ramp on schedule. Rear-wheel drive only for early production, just like Model S," end quote. Twitter user @TimShelton followed asking, quote, "How will that impact early reservation holders that will want to wait for a dual-motor car?" End quote. Elon's response said, quote, "First in line for dual-motor as soon as we can make it, which is probably in 6 to 9 months," end quote. But it gets worse the more performance you're hoping for. Twitter user @Dr_Angus asks, quote, "Is there going to be a Performance 3? Would love to see the power of a Model S with the lightweight of a Model 3, end quote. Elon's response was, quote, "Yeah, probably a year from now. S will still win on acceleration, though, due to having more space for a larger battery," end quote. So that caps it. The first all-wheel drive vehicles coming 6 to 9 months from now, and if you're looking for a P75D, you've still got a full calendar year to wait at a minimum. Business-wise, this does make a lot of sense. When you're trying to produce as many cars as possible, burning only one motor on a car instead of two just makes more sense. In addition, Elon has made it super clear that due to production ramp, early vehicles will be losing the company money as they get the production line up to speed. So again, it makes no sense to have the highly optioned vehicles losing the company money while they figure out the production ramp, only to have lesser optioned cars making less of a margin later on. And then lastly, while we're disappointing folks, our friends in the right-hand drive markets, I feel even more for you. Twitter user @DJ Burgess asked, quote, "Looks quick. When will right-hand drive versions be on the road in UK?" End quote. Elon's response, quote, "Should be summer next year. Sorry, really wish we could get right-hand drive done sooner. We truly are working as fast as we can," end quote. I'll pour an extra drink for you folks in the UK while I'm drowning my sorrows about the all-wheel drive announcement. That's it for today's show. You can find the links to all the full stories in the show description. This show operates on a value-for-value model. If you get some value out of what I do each day, please consider supporting me at patreon.com/TeslaTidbits. Support even as little as $0.25 a month will be humbly appreciated. As always, thanks to super patrons John Waltower, Drew Schuyler, Cookie UK, and John Waller for supporting the show at the $10 plus level. Thanks as well to my newest patron, Robert Burnham, and Burhan Halalov for increasing a pledge. If you've got nothing extra to spare, though, that's totally fine. Please feel free to support the show with your positive iTunes reviews and subscriptions, as well as across other services on the internet. Also, feel free to support our friend Drew Schuyler if you're in the market for a Tesla. Get yourself $1,000 off a Tesla using the referral link ts.la/Andrew1233. If you have feedback for me, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits. That's all for today. See you back here again tomorrow. Until then, keep it charged and hit the road.